The opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Cable 14, its sponsors, or its shareholders, Cogeco Cable, Shaw Cable, and Source Cable Limited.
And good evening and welcome to the December 15th edition of Hamilton Talks. I'm the host of the program, Larry Di Ianni, and Hamilton Talks, of course, is a community affairs program that talks to Hamiltonians who are prominent and sometimes Hamiltonians who are not as well known, but who are bringing our community forward. And tonight we're very pleased to talk to Sheiry Dhillon. And Sheiry Dhillon is a Brampton native who for the past 4 years has been studying at McMaster University in the Bachelor of Health Sciences program. Her parents moved to Canada from rural India's Punjab region in 1989. In fact, her father is a limousine driver at Toronto's airport. Sheiry has just been awarded the prestigious Rhodes Scholarship by Oxford University in England. The scholarship has a value of up to $150,000 and is given to students who, according to Cecil Rhodes, the scholarship's benefactor, will, quote, fight the world's fight in finding positive solutions for our collective problems. Sheiry's interests are in health sciences, and she follows in the footsteps of other notable Canadians who've also gotten Rhodes Scholarships, people such as Bob Rae, the current interim leader of the Liberal Party, former Prime Minister John Turner, Rex Murphy, commentator on CBC, and former Governor General Mr. Roland Michener. We're very pleased to welcome you to the program, Sheiry.
Thank you, Larry. It's great to be here.
Well, Sheiry, you know, not every day do we talk to Rhodes Scholars. So this is a big deal for you, but it's a big deal for the university as well, of which it is my alma mater as well. And I read Dr. Dean's comments. Of course, he's justly proud of your accomplishments. And we're going to get to meet you a little bit and introduce you to Hamiltonians. I did say, of course, this is Hamilton Talks. I did say that you're a person from Brantford, but you've been living in Hamilton for the last 4 years. Tell us a little bit about university life. Tell us a little bit about your life.
Of course. So I'm from Brampton, and Hamilton goes back a little bit before 4 years for me. My sister was a McMaster grad as well. So ever since I was in about grade 6 or 7, I used to come visit her every year, 2 or 3 times, and just kind of absorb the university life, absorb the university itself. Really, really enjoyed it. So then when my time came around, I decided, you know, McMaster University is where it's at for me. The health sciences program is kind of it just happened. It felt right. So I came, and I've loved every bit of the last 4 years. So the first 2 years I spent living on residence, really enjoyed that. Now I live off residence with a house of 8 other folks across the university, and I love. And
in spite of that, you still were able to get a Rhodes Scholarship.
Oh, yeah.
That's impressive.
They're an academic bunch as well, so they're pretty supportive. But yeah, the university life is fantastic. The program that I'm in, the Bachelor of Health Sciences program, has really fostered sort of the learning environment and real learning, problem-based learning. And then the global health specialization that I've been doing has really helped me, you know, focus in on what exactly in healthcare that I'm interested in. So university life in general has been fantastic from an academic perspective, a social perspective, and it's been a lot of fun.
Well, and obviously you are a studious person, and you've applied yourself over the last 4 years. But have you gotten to know the city at all, and what do you think?
Well, I have. You definitely get a chance, even if you're going for, you know, a quick walk in downtown Hamilton, you get a chance to know the city. And I'm always so amazed by sort of the history and the culture that exists in Hamilton. And just this past year, one of the things that I learned was, you know, the old sanatorium up on the mountain. I kind of learned the history there in terms of Hamilton's role in sort of fighting tuberculosis in the 1900s. So there's always something I feel like I'm learning. And we took a trip up to the Old Sand this year. And that was one of the things this year that really stood out for me. There's always something I'm learning about the city, and it's a beautiful place, and it feels like home. It's felt like home ever since I was, in grade 7.
Well, you know what? It's a real city, and I love Brampton.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but this is a real city with lots of history.
Exactly.
Brampton is, of course, has its history as well, but
Yeah.
it's a modern city.
Yeah.
Listen, you come from a very interesting background, Sheiry. I mentioned that your dad is a limo driver at the airport, and obviously you're Indian. You were born in or at least the family is from the Punjab region. I've got a little clip from a YouTube that we found I want you to see. Look at the screen, and then I want you to comment on this, okay?
Okay.
Please run it.
My sister was born in northern rural India. My family's from the state of Punjab, and we're from a fairly rural village. And she was born in sort of the normal bedroom. And my mom was on a mungie, which is it's like a sort of a wooden frame covered with cloth, and she was lying on a mungie, and the floors weren't cemented. And that's the kind of environment that my sister was born in. And my grandfather had sort of boiled a pair of scissors from the house, and that was what was used to cut the umbilical cord. And there was a local dye who is a traditional birth attendant in the area, typically not clinically trained, who was the person that was kind of guiding my mom through it. And my mom's mom, so my grandma, was also present in the room. And that's how my sister was born. I was born in Brampton Peel Memorial Hospital.
Now, I find that fascinating.
Yeah.
And you're talking to someone who many generations before your sister was born was born in a rural village in the mountains of central Italy through the help of a midwife, no running water, so similar sorts of circumstances. But I find that story so quintessentially Canadian because by virtue of geography, you are where you are.
Exactly.
And you've been given some opportunities. Talk about what that means for you in terms of this country and the opportunities you've been given.
No, exactly. I think growing up, sort of knowing my parents' story, always helped me be aware of how lucky and fortunate I am to have the opportunities that I have here. And I think it's always, I've always known that there's something that I can do with these opportunities, and there's always an ability to give back. So I think just being aware of that growing up, it sort of made me sort of that humanitarian that I was as a kid, the kid that, I'd like to take advantage of the opportunities and give back to the community. So I think, growing up here in Canada that's what it's taught me, that I'm just extremely fortunate to have the resources that I have. But at the same time, it's really important to give back because you're lucky. This is not necessarily a right. You're very lucky to be in the position that you're in. And I think that awareness has kind of shaped a lot of the work that I've done over the years.
That's great. And it talks to not only obviously your abilities, and they're considerable, but it talks to a society that allows people to express their very best abilities and fulfill their goals. And I agree with you that we're very fortunate to be in this environment as well. Well, Sheiry, let's talk a little bit about what you've been doing at school. You're in the health sciences program. And before the Rhodes Scholarship, where were you headed?
Well, I came into the health sciences program, actually even before that I was planning on going into sort of economics and a little bit of the business side, and then the health sciences program kind of just fell into place for me. And I always knew that healthcare and just the concept of health is very, very universal. So I knew this was kind of the path that I was going down. Now, I've always also been a very macro level person, and I really sort of enjoy the health policy picture, sort of the bigger things that happen in healthcare rather than sort of the clinical side of it. So I think that I've always known that I was going down that path, and I've always kind of wanted to learn about public health. So that's kind of the path that I'm going down right now. And the health sciences program has been just phenomenal for preparing me for that, because you take such a wide range of courses. You get the opportunity to take the epidemiologies, the biostatistics, critical appraisal of medical literature. So you get to take all of these fantastic classes. And on top of that, you can even specialize if you want to. So the fact that I chose that global health specialization, I feel like really helped me find my niche in terms of where I wanted to go.
So it seems to me that research was the path as opposed to practicing medicine of some sort. It was the bigger research picture that would assist physicians out in the field.
Exactly.
Well, I'm sure that you got where you are because of your abilities, but I'm sure you had lots of people sort of in your corner.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that is sort of when I found out about the Rhodes Scholarship. The folks that have been so influential were the first ones that I emailed. And in the title I had said, "We got the Rhodes," because these folks have just been there every step of the way. So I have a few professors, you know, the people that are in the office, Dr. Del Harnish, Margaret Secord, Dr. Sheila Barrett. These folks have just been there every step of the way. And anytime I have some light bulb moment or an idea or something that I want to pursue, they are there helping me make it happen in the McMaster community or in the Hamilton community. And even it roots as far back as high school. So there's some teachers.
We'll talk about that because I'm an old high school principal, so let's give some credit at that level as well.
Exactly, and I think that's when you sort of those core principles of, you know, like I want to give back in the community, I want to be involved in these sorts of things. And when you have people at that young of an age that really believe in you and invest time in you, it means a lot. So there's people like Mrs. Toon that I can remember, and she was one of the first folks that I called after I found out about the scholarship. And
she was
my guidance counselor and volleyball coach in high school, and she was just as excited as my parents. And you know, and my high school put on an announcement. They put it on the electric board outside, and are very, very excited. And that was 4 years ago that I was there.
So you're a hero in Brampton, as well as here in Hamilton. Well, talk a little bit about the moment when, well, you know, we'll get into the Rhodes Scholarship because I want to hear about that. But the moment when you found out you won, where were you?
Oh, it's a funny story. So I was in the Brampton home visiting my mom and dad, and sort of the interview happened that day. So on Saturday, I had the interview from about 4 to 4:45, and then I got back home at about 6 o'clock. So I had a few hours to kill. And at about 9, they said they would call in between 9 and 10. So I'm anticipating this phone call. It's 9:30, still haven't heard anything. It's 9:45, still haven't heard anything. Just playing a little bit of the guitar, you know, feeling kind of antsy. And then at 10:15, I'm anticipating a phone call on my cell phone. But my cell phone doesn't ring. It's my house phone that rings. So then I run over to the house phone. I see the name, and I recognize it. I know it's the Ontario Secretary for Rhodes. So I pick up the phone. Feeling very nervous. And Dr. Gutman, who was on the other line, she said right away, "Sheiry, is that you?" And I said, "Yes, it is." She said, "Congratulations, you are going to Oxford." And and she told me right away. And then I think I said something along the lines of "sorry," and she repeated
just wanted to hear it again,
or make sure that I wasn't mishearing anything. Yeah. So she repeated the news, and I think I had said something along the lines of, "This is incredible." And I think my parents right then and there heard the news, and all I heard were footsteps scurrying behind me. And as I was chatting on the phone, I turned around, I looked at my parents, and they were, you know, just hugging, and my mom was in tears, and I could hear my brother running down the stairs, and it was a very memorable moment and very emotional.
Now, I know the Sikh community, and they love to party.
Oh, yeah, we do.
So you had a party?
Not yet. But
you will.
But perhaps, you know, knowing my parents probably have some sort of a surprise party that somehow leaks, and I'll find out about.
But let me understand, the process, I mean, there was an interview process, but there must have been applications before that. What did the application look like? What did you have to submit?
It's quite strenuous. So you start at McMaster in about September. And even before that, you have to start thinking about your application and your referees. So you start in September, and McMaster has an internal process with their own committee. A few folks sit on that. And then by about 2 weeks after September 16th, I think it was, we found out whether or not we were endorsed by the university. So this year there were 3 folks that were endorsed by the university, and all 3 of us ended up gaining a final spot. So after that, you apply directly to the provincial pool. And from the provincial pool, I think probably about 60 people across Ontario make it to that stage. You get selected for provincial interviews.
And who are the people that interview you?
Oh my goodness, the panel is just phenomenal. These are leaders across Canada, leaders across sort of the globe. Justice Abella, who sits Justice Abella is the chair. And some of them are past Rhodes Scholars. Some of them are folks that are really big in the global health field and are people that I read about. You know,
and what was the toughest question they asked you?
Oh, there were actually a lot of tough questions. But the toughest one, I think, was, you know, what do you think is the biggest issue in the world today? And do you have optimism to solve it or not?
That's a cinch. That was the toughest one. I could have gotten the Scott. No.
Yeah.
I mean, that is such a huge question.
It is such a huge question.
Yeah.
And
how do you tackle that? So what did, very quickly, what did you say?
Exactly. I just talked about, the distribution of resources across the globe, and how the fact that a lot of these resources are distributed unequally is at the crux of a lot of issues that we see in the world today. So I talked about that a little bit. And then in terms of optimism, I said, of course I have optimism, because I think if I didn't, my whole life would almost be a lie. The work that I do is based around that optimism, to think that, we truly can make a difference. We truly can make change. So I'm an optimist at heart, and I was honest when I answered.
Now, Cecil Rhodes was obviously an interesting and interested man, as well as a man who had accumulated some wealth to be able to carry on a scholarship such as this over the ages. But he, as I said in my interview, said that he didn't want just bookworms. He wanted people who would fight the world's fight. What did he mean by that? What did he mean by that for you?
Well, that's a really good question, and something that you really think about, I think, before you apply to the Rhodes. And in terms of fighting the world's fight, for me, it's always meant, fighting the world's fight for people who can't fight it for themselves. And that's kind of the way I've always approached it. So you can fight the world's fight here locally. You can also fight the world's fight somewhere else in the world. But it's always, I think, making sure that the resources that aren't given to, or that aren't available, or the opportunities that aren't available for marginalized groups of individuals, to make sure that those opportunities are there, and fighting for those. So I think that's how I've always interpreted it, and that's how I've always approached that concept.
Okay, so I rattled off a few of the past Rhodes Scholars, and some of them have distinguished themselves in politics, others have distinguished, and I didn't read their names, but in business, in university life, in renowned authors, the world of economy, and so on. We've had some very distinguished people. You are following in their footsteps, and much has been given you, but much is expected of you.
Yes.
What kind of pressure does that put on you?
A lot of pressure. Yeah, it's knowing that folks are really, they're investing in you because they expect you to make change, to make a difference in your environment, and knowing that that's there is, yes, it's a bit stressful sometimes. It's a bit scary too. But at the same time, it's a great motivator to know that people really believe in you to do the work that you want to do, to make the change that you want to make. So I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword. Yeah, you have a lot of pressure on you, but at the same time, people believe in you for a reason, and it's a motivator. So that's kind of, I try to take, again, sort of the optimistic look, I think, at that sort of pressure that exists.
And you've been prepared for that pressure as well. Obviously, you've been through the last 4 years. You've reached a level that's given you some skills to go the next step. So now you're going to move to England.
Yes.
When?
So I'll be leaving next September, which is less than a year away. And I think the months will probably sail by. I'll be leaving probably end of September last week.
Have you ever been to England?
I've only been on stopovers, so flights. I've never
on
really
your way
explored
to India, probably.
India, a few other places, but I've never taken a look around the city, which I'm super excited to do a bit of travel when I'm in Europe and UK.
And where will you live? I mean, what are the logistics there, or do you know? Maybe you don't even know at this point.
Well, I'm in the process of figuring all that out right now. So all of myself and the 10 other Rhodes Scholars across Canada, we're applying to colleges, which is apparently, it's a very crucial part of your time at Oxford. So your social life and sort of your social circle a lot of the times will revolve around the college that you're a part of. So I'll be applying directly to a college, we'll be living at a college there, and then you apply to a program of study separately from that.
And once you're settled in there, you're one of many thousands of students that are there. You don't walk around with a Rhodes Scholar shirt on.
No, nor do I think I would want to.
No, of course not. But, I mean, your professors there will know that you're part of that scholarship. I'm sure that there'll be an infrastructure of support for you there as well.
Exactly.
Who decides which programs you take? Is that all up to you?
It really is all up to us. As a Rhodes Scholar, you have the opportunity to apply to pretty much most of the programs that are available at Oxford. And it doesn't necessarily mean that because you are a Rhodes Scholar, you have 100%, you'll be admitted into a program. That's not necessarily true. So you have to brace yourself for a backup plan as well. So right now I'm taking a look at 2 specific programs. I'm looking at an MSc in Global Health Science, and I'm also...
So that's a Master of Sciences?
Exactly.
In Health Sciences?
Yeah.
And the other?
And the other one is a DPhil, which is the equivalent of a PhD here in
Doctor
Public
of
Health.
Philosophy in Health Sciences?
Exactly.
Which is the equivalent of our PhD.
Exactly.
Which way are you leaning?
It's a great question. I'm having a pretty big research year at McMaster this year, and I am a researcher at heart. I absolutely love it. I love the feel of, exploring new information and being able to sift through that. So I'm leaning towards the DPhil. And it'll be exciting because that's 3 years of diving into a research question really in depth and pursuing that. So
well, I was hoping you'd say that because, I mean, you're there now, go for the gusto is the way that I'd feel. Although the challenge would be even greater, right? It's a much more involved program. It's a 3-year program and so on. What area will you hope to do research in?
Well, the global health area in general is kind of where I'm going. Specifically within that, I've always been very interested in maternal and child health. So that's kind of what I would like to do: antenatal care and emergency obstetric care, sort of the area of access to those resources and services in low and middle income countries is what I'm looking at.
Well, in fact, part of the bio that I saw had you indicate that you wouldn't mind working for the World Health Organization, or there was an Indian organization as well.
The Public Health Foundation of India is another one that I had listed there.
And so what is that?
So the Public Health Foundation of India, why I think it's such a great body in general, is because a lot of the research that they do is for the purposes of informing policy. And that's kind of where I would like to be, at that interface of, policy and research, and being in both of those realms and those worlds. And the Public Health Foundation of India, I think, does a fantastic job of that. And a lot of sort of people's work that I followed throughout the years, and a lot of my interests in India have come from a lot of the work that they do. So that's, I think, a phenomenal organization.
And if you were to work for that foundation, where would you live? In India?
Well, it all depends. I think if you were to work there for a few years, you would likely be living in India for a little bit, getting exposure there, and really, being at the heart of the issues in India. If you're working for the Public Health Foundation of India, and if you're consulting for the WHO, you don't necessarily need to be in Geneva all the time. You can be in several different places in the world. So. Well,
and in fact, at that level of research, you really are a world citizen, aren't you? You're not doing research for a particular part, you're doing research for everybody.
Exactly.
And I know that there's great collaboration, international collaboration among researchers at that level as well.
Exactly.
Because we'd hate to, of course, lose you from your Canadian involvement.
Yeah, no, and exactly. And I think that's something that's very important. The concept of global health in general, to me, is all-encompassing. It's not necessarily international health where you're looking at always, us and them. It's a very global concept. There are no borders. So to me, global health also encompasses local and domestic healthcare issues. So Canada won't be losing me.
Sheiry, we only have a couple of minutes left. Half hour goes by very quickly, and it's been really interesting to talk to you. But the last couple of minutes, you're a young woman, obviously a very bright young woman who's accomplished a lot. And you come from an Indian background, a Sikh specifically background. How important is your ethnic grounding to you?
I'm happy you asked that question because it is so important. Having the Indian culture growing up and all of sort of the traditions and the customs is always a lot of fun. It's a part of who I am. And then having that opportunity to go back to India last year, I lived in northern India for 4 months, and really sort of understanding where my parents are from and where all these customs and these traditions come from was also very much an eye-opening experience. It's being part of a community, at the end of the day, and I've really enjoyed that growing up. A lot of my friends, a lot of my family, a lot of my cousins being part of a community. So I think that was very important for me growing up as a kid, and I've always really, really enjoyed the Sikh community.
And you speak the language, obviously.
Yes.
You write it as well, because I know that there's a challenge there.
There definitely is. I actually don't write or read very well, probably at around a grade 1 level.
Yeah.
But the speaking-wise, I've been very fortunate. My parents, growing up, would speak at home, learn the language, and so any of the times that I've been back to India and specifically in Punjab, people are always very impressed because they feel like I sound like a local, which is nice.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So other than Punjabi, do you speak any other English English or Indian dialects? Or
yeah,
languages?
so I learned a little bit of Hindi when I was there last. I took lessons when I was there, so I'm definitely able to get around in other parts of India with my Hindi. Definitely not as strong as my Punjabi though, but those are the
Urdu?
two. No, but I unfortunately not. But my name, Sheiry, is from Urdu, which
is it?
Yeah.
Okay, and what does it mean?
Poetry.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah,
so somehow that's
there.
appropriate as well.
Yep.
Well, listen, that's great. Now, Hamilton has a very strong Indian community. I mean, lots of communities in the general GTA area have. Brampton, of course, even stronger. We have lots of gurdwaras. I visited most of them. How about you?
I have. I've been, in all honesty, I haven't been to a lot of them in Hamilton just because getting around the city can be difficult. Anytime I'm passing by going home, there's one that's a little bit up on the mountain that my parents and I will visit once in a while. We've been visiting that since I was in about, again, grade 7. But yeah, and you're right, there's a very strong community here. But I haven't had the opportunity to visit a lot of the Gurdwaras.
Well, you've been working on getting this scholarship, among other things. Just very quickly,
yes.
if we project ahead and we are writing your biography because you're going to be a famous researcher, what do you want that biography to be about?
Well, I think, I would want it to be about sort of the work that I'm doing, the fact that I'm hopefully still fighting the world's fight, and I'm a very family-oriented, grounded individual. I hope that it would cover those things. And yeah, so I would, in a general sense, I think that's what I would want it to say.
Well, listen, Sheiry, best of luck. We really are proud of you, and we wish you well. I know that you're going to make your family proud and your community proud as well, and Cecil Rhodes proud. You're not just a bookworm, although you're an academic. You really will fight the world's fight. So congratulations and good luck. It's been great meeting you.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching. We've been in conversation with Sheiry Dhillon, a Rhodes Scholar from McMaster University, heading out to Oxford, England for the next 2 or 3 years to fight the world's fight. Tune in next week. Hamilton Talks will have as our final guest of the year, Mr. David Sweet, Member of Parliament. Thanks for watching.